Good afternoon, Brianna.
Hi, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you, my dear?
Oh, I'm so blessed and grateful to spend this time with you.
I love your energy. I am so grateful that I met you through the amazing Clubhouse forum. I found myself in two of the rooms you were in, one of which you were hosting, and I just was drawn to your energy. You know, there are some amazing rooms on Clubhouse that are filled with a lot of love, a lot of authenticity, and I just got that vibe the moment I stepped into your room. You're awesome. So, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to share space consciously with so many extraordinary humans. And Clubhouse is such a beautiful vehicle for us to meet each other and really figure out what matters most, where we're having intimate conversations that we would never normally have if we met in real life. So or that we might have in a while, but like, it's a sweet platform.
It so is. It's game changing. I know for me, it's made me like feel a sense of connection, like you just said. Like the sense of connection through this pandemic has been such a void, and then we get this Clubhouse, and it's been so magical. So before we dive in, just a little bit for those who are watching, what I'm doing with Michelle's Conversations That Matter is I'm out to really elevate the conversation about brain health and have people maybe get some information that educates them, inspires them, empowers them around their mental well-being. And I have people on from all areas, from clinicians and neuroscientists to individuals just telling their stories. So I'm very grateful that you're here. Today we're going to talk about the miracle morning and elevating the consciousness of humanity. Now that is a tall order, but I know it's going to be a great chat with you just because of who you are, Brianna. So can you do us the honor of sharing with us who you are, where you live, and what you do?
Sure. I am Brianna Greenspan, and when people ask me who I am, at my core, I'm just a girl trying to do all the good I can in all the ways I can, at all the times I can, for all the beings I can, as often as I can. And that kind of shows up in a variety of different ways. My professional work is at the cross section of elevating consciousness and medical genetics. So I work with a lot of researchers and physicians on a condition that I think we're going to talk about it another time. And I'm the co-author of The Miracle Morning, Art of Affirmations, which is a positive coloring book for adults and kids that teaches families how to create structured morning routines. Yes, you got the miracle morning. I'm so happy. That book and the movement have completely and totally transformed my life, my life. And in the last 12 years, I've been able to live in a variety of different places and show up in a variety of different ways. And I absolutely attribute the miracle morning practice that I do each and every day to how I'm able to show up so vibrantly despite the challenges that I experience. So at the moment, I'm in Texas during this pandemic. Normally, I'm like a world traveler and explorer. However, I've been more stationary in this time. And I also am the host of the Miracle Morning Show, which happens every day on Clubhouse.
I think that's one of the rooms I was in. And this afternoon, I'm having Kunal on as well. So this conversation is really part one of elevating consciousness of humanity. And then Kunal and I are going to talk about it again this afternoon. So that'll be part two. But let's start off fundamentally for people that don't know this book, the power of this book. Could you sort of give us a high-level overview of what this book is and why it's such a great tool?
Absolutely. So I'll just take a step back and say that Hal Elrod is an extraordinary leader, a conscious leader in a space where he is leading so many people to be their best self. And at one point, he has like a crazy backstory. He was hit head on by a drunk driver, died at the scene. They said that he was never going to walk again. He said, respectfully, I disagree. And, he told the physicians that the day he woke up from a coma, that he didn't accept that his only option was that he would be wheelchair bound for the rest of his life. Even if he was wheelchair bound, he would be the happiest person in the world. However, don't give him that one option. And he said, let me at least try and walk. And if I fail, then that's another story. But don't give me such a limited set of options. And within that, he became a motivational speaker and a coach and an author. And at one point, he lost all of his clients, and he was facing his home being repossessed, and he was just really financially struggling when the 2008 crash happened. And he said, being broke is worse than dying. I don't know how to serve my family. And so in that moment, he researched what the world's most successful thought leaders attribute their success to. And he realized that everybody attributed it to a morning routine. And within that, there were thousands of different rituals and habits and modalities that people were saying, this is the thing. But the 6 most popular were some version of silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing or journaling. So he created an acronym called SAVERS, and he thought to himself, what if he just woke up earlier than he normally would and did all 6 of these practices? And immediately he started, his comeback journey, so to speak. And he really started making massive strides in his life to take control of the situation that was in front of him. And people started taking note. Then he started sharing it with others. And like future clients of his, etc. And from that, he got so much feedback from people saying, oh my gosh, I am the best I've ever been. I'm showing up as the greatest servant leader that I can for those that I love and those that I lead. I'm so grateful that you inspired this practice. So that kind of started a global movement. And then years later, he wrote a book that became an international bestseller. It's now been translated into 32 languages. I'm so happy when I see it. And I was part of the book launch team and part of like walking that journey with him the last 13 years. And so it's been really beautiful to witness how he went from ordinary guy doing extraordinary things to inspiring ordinary people across the world to do extraordinary things. And each of us have that opportunity. So the miracle morning is just wake up earlier than you normally would and do some powerful habit stacking.
I love it. It's the habit stacking. And I love that he did the research, because when you think about these mega successful individuals, or even leaders of organizations, he's right. They all have a robust morning routine. They don't hit the snooze bar. They go and they tackle their day. They set themselves up for success. And, before Clubhouse, it's sort of like one of those things where you're like, yeah, but those are habits that, only the crazy successful do. But then I got on Clubhouse and there were these conversations happening of entrepreneurs and all these people talking about there's no negotiating on what they do the first moments they wake up. And you're like, oh my gosh, that is a consistent pattern, that it is how you start your day that really does determine the trajectory of how things go.
That's absolutely right. And, for a long time, we were told that that's something that just the highest achievers do.
Yeah.
But actually, powerful.
Oh, no. Okay, bear with us. We lost Brianna for a minute, but it's just the nature of my week. So this is how it's going to go. She's going to join back in. So thank you for whoever is here. We're going to continue our conversation. Here we go.
Outside. Oh my gosh. I've never had this experience in Texas. I am back. So sorry.
Okay. No, it's the nature of live. So it's perfect. So you were saying.
Powerful morning practices is something that we can all do. And so each and every day in the Miracle Morning Room, in our international Facebook group, which has hundreds of thousands of people are just sharing what they're doing, what's working, and how it's leveling up their lives. And what's beautiful is if you don't have a robust toolbox, so to speak, of different rituals and practices, you can just look at what other people are doing and tap into yourself and see, what do I resonate with?
Right.
Sometimes that's prayer. Sometimes that's meditation. Sometimes that's breath work. Sometimes that's, sitting and watching the sunrise. Whatever that looks like for you. You don't have to try on mine or Michelle's routine, but figure out what works for you and then do it immediately. Like massive action in the next 24 hours towards the things that you'd like to bring into your life is how you're going to put one foot in front of the other and get to a different place than you were possibly destined to go yesterday.
Yeah, that's so great. It's so true. It's like if you make small incremental changes, they can yield big, massive results. And so maybe it's getting up a half an hour earlier. Maybe it's only doing a shorter amount. Maybe it's not a full hour, but it's a baby step, and it's getting you into doing a little bit more for yourself before you go out in the world and do more for everyone else. So
at the Miracle Morning movement, we're constantly inspiring people to start with 6 minutes. Give yourself 1 minute of silence, 1 minute of reading affirmations, 1 minute of gratitude, 1 minute of writing down, whether it's a page or things you're grateful for, 1 minute of each of the practices, and then doing that consistently. Because what happens if you do a 6-minute Miracle Morning for 30 days, for instance, you're creating a new neural pathway called morning routine, something that wasn't there before. And you can elaborate on each of those. You can, do 3 minutes or 5 minutes of exercise or whatever you want. But if you just give yourself something manageable to start with, and that could even be just one practice. I know people that are like, just 5 minutes of meditation. That's all I'm going to do. Maybe next week I'll get to something else. So, whatever feels good to get you to create a new rhythm is really what our highest hope is.
amazing. Now, this came out as a movie, right? Recently. Tell us about this movie so people don't want to read the book, they can watch the movie. So what's this movie about?
Oh, I'm so excited. The Miracle Morning documentary, which was in process for about 4.5 years, and it chronicles a little bit of Hal's journey and the movement's journey, and then it has an exorbitant amount of these amazing influencers like Mel Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki and Lewis Howes and all these other amazing high performers that are sharing their specific rituals and habits. I'm also featured in it, my illness to wellness journey. So they show me in the hospital and in wheelchairs and a lot of the chronic illness that I've experienced and how the Miracle Morning has aided me in that journey. And it is available at miraclemorningmovie.com. And what's amazing about it, and a true testament to who Hal Elrod is. So in the middle of filming, he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. And he was given a very low life expectancy. And he decided to stop filming. And he was like, the only thing that matters is me getting stronger. And the director said, you embody the hero's journey in so many ways. Your journey's not done. We need to showcase what it looks like for you to continuously engage in these rituals and habits, even in the hospital, even when you're suffering, even on the bad days, because he knows the 5 minutes of meditation, a little bit of exercise, being grateful for what he does have, and what he can still hold on to, having a vision board in the hospital, were all things that attributed to him having the mindset that he needed to get through that experience. And thank God he's on the other end of that experience. He did survive cancer. He is still with us. And now he has a new outlook on what matters most. And he recognizes that the thing that matters most to him is his family. Teaching his children the values that matter about how to show up with compassion and authentically and with a huge heart. And so now he spends a lot more of his time living into those values. But the Miracle Morning documentary is definitely extraordinary for anyone who doesn't really want to read the book, which is also, really great, filled with nuggets of wisdom. But that's really what it's all about. If you don't want to read the book, you can see tons of people's stories of what's working for them and how you can apply any or all of it.
That's amazing. I love that so much. And you just spoke to the power of mindset. I mean, he knew he needed to think about and keep nourishing the mind. The mind is so powerful when you're going through anything, especially something like cancer. And, And that's the other reason why I love this book, is because it really does remind you the importance of nurturing and caring for your mind as much as you care for your body. So that leads me to my next question, which is around, and we're going to talk in a separate interview about this, but tell us a little bit about your chronic illness and how the Miracle Morning sort of helped you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am so grateful that you picked up on that note, because our mind is such a powerful part of our body. And when we are not positively nourishing our mind on a continuous basis, these thoughts that are, flooding our brain on a regular basis, they're not serving us. It's like, what does it look like for us to be in a mindset that we are continuously not only serving ourselves, but serving those around us?
Mm-hmm.
So this growth mindset, a positive mindset, despite what you go through. And that, for me, I have all kinds of challenges and have my entire life. It's like, I say that I'm not always able to walk, talk, see, hear, and breathe. And fingers crossed, the thing I try to do is as many of those as possible, as often as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I get knocked down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I'm stronger than I've ever been, I still have a ton of symptoms on a daily or hourly basis. And so for me, it's not about what I'm experiencing. It's about my mindset. It's about me saying to myself, despite what I'm experiencing, despite me getting knocked over, what can I do in this moment? Maybe that's just drinking a glass of water.
Right.
Maybe that's taking some deep breaths. Maybe that's, saying an affirmation about what's possible and then living into that.
Right.
And so the habit stacking in the morning was completely radical and transformational. I had met Hal right after I learned to walk again in 2008. And he had also relearned to walk again. So I had a lot of admiration and respect for him as a leader and a coach and a friend and mentor. And one day he came to me and he said, I want you to wake up earlier than you normally would and care about yourself. And I said, absolutely not. You're crazy. Do you know that I spend, 2 to 5 hours every single morning in agony, after I've had a seizure, or I've been throwing up all night, or whatever that situation is.
Mm-hmm.
I never know what my morning's going to look like. And I'm always suffering. I feel like somebody is literally harming me. And it takes me so much energy just to be able to get out of bed. And he's like, I'm not discrediting what you experience, but I'm inviting you to think what's possible if you change how you show up for yourself. And I thought that was super intriguing. And he said, what if just tomorrow, or what if just this week, you wake up and you give yourself a little bit of time and space to fill up your own cup before you go out and fill up and serve the world.
Mm.
I didn't fundamentally understand what he was saying. So he reinforced. He's like, what if you just give yourself a little bit of time? What if it's just 20 minutes?
Mm.
What was like so radical and extraordinary is that the first time I did a Miracle Morning, I had this epiphany that if I did some version of positive habit stacking in the morning, in my first few waking moments each and every day, I'd never spend another 24 hours in bed or in a hospital ever again. And now it's been 13 years, and that is the case. That's still been the case, even though there are days that I'm knocked over, 10, 12 hours, I'm struggling. But I still know movement's important. So I'm still able, despite what I can't do, I recognize what I can do because he inspired mindset, a powerful, positive growth mindset in my life.
And it's a muscle too, Brianna. It was so interesting to me how you took command of your brain when we had our initial conversation. You had just, I think, experienced a seizure, and you came to the call, and you literally you were like, I'm okay, right? You had this realization, and it wasn't about muscling through. It was just like, no, in this moment, I'm okay, even though that's what happened, right?
Yes. And right there, I'm so happy you mentioned that, because that that is a testament to how far I've come on this journey, but a testament to what's possible for all of us. Because in my past narrative, I would let the experiences that I had, the times that I was knocked over, carry into lots of other moments of my day.
Mhm.
And like, even if I had a seizure an hour ago,
Right.
am I having a seizure right now? Like, that's the real question. It's
Right.
like, am I able to talk right now? I wasn't able to talk for a little bit, and I was like a little jarred about it. And then I was. And I did the things that I needed to do. And I knew, the safeguard. I can cancel a meeting if I'm not well. And Michelle has such a huge heart. She would have totally understood. But for me, it's asking myself point blank, what are you capable of in this moment? And if the answer is, you're strong again, you've got this, then I get to listen to that voice. And it is a muscle that I'm constantly developing, because when I was younger, everyone was like, oh, poor you. I'm so, you can miss the rest of school today. Like, I would throw up at school and they'd send me home. And I remember one time my mom called the school and said, oh, that's just her normal. You have to send her home. Just send her to the bathroom and let her go back to class because she's fine afterward.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was a huge realization of like the moments that we have, we can let them define us, or that we can let them strengthen our resilience.
Right.
And so, I'm so grateful for this growth mindset where I've been able to recognize I don't have to stay down because I'm knocked down. I don't have to miss out or opt out of beautiful experiences that I can have because I'm living in a state of fear about what's going to happen next. And so that's really been a huge turning point in my mindfulness journey.
So tell us about what has been maybe your greatest realization from your mindfulness practice that you've been adopting and evolving over the years.
Oh my gosh. So for years, I didn't actually understand the concept of equanimity, which is really like having a neutral opinion to the push and the pull of each experience. And when I learned that instead of just meditating, like people would say, oh, you're stressed out, go meditate. And then I met a woman named Juliana Ray who shared the unified mindfulness approach. And she said that actually mindfulness is something that you're supposed to carry with you at all times in every moment. And the way to show up mindfully is to just develop and strengthen 3 muscles: sensory clarity, equanimity, and concentration power. Choosing what you focus on and being able to focus your attention on it for however long you'd like. Having equanimity with what comes up. Not putting yourself in a shame spiral. I had to have equanimity when I had a seizure and say, okay, this is what I'm experiencing. And what's the worst that can happen in that? I just had to drop in and allow for what was happening to happen and not let it define my moment. And to have this sensory clarity where you're this heightened sense of smells and sight and sound, etc. You're being super clear on what you're experiencing. And that can be, a beautiful example of that is if you have a mindful bite, you literally look at what you're eating, you think about where it came from, all of the resources that went into whatever is on your fork. And you tap into your senses. And what happens is you taste things at such a heightened level you'd never noticed before, because we're often unconscious, unmindful in most of our experiences. And so that, like, the best thing that I learned was it's not just about the pillow time. Like, that's amazing to sit and be, in stillness and to really develop those skills. But how are you using those skills throughout your day? You're constantly going to meet someone who's going to irk you, who's going to turn down your proposal, who's going to rear end you, who's going to, whatever. And we can either let that dictate our emotions, or we can have equanimity with the moment. And so that has been the deepest learning, which took me many years. Many years.
But that's peace. So what's on the other side of being able to do that is peace, right? Like, so that's perfect because that's going to tie us into the big question about elevating the consciousness of humanity. That's really what we were going to talk about. But I felt it was so important to set it up and let people know what the Miracle Morning is about. And I guess like when I think about this, like being in your room and being in Kunal's room on Clubhouse and talking about this very topic, like what do you think is required? I always go back to that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. Do you think it's actually possible that we can elevate the consciousness of humanity?
Yes, and you're 100% spot on. Like, so I'm going to back up and say that the actual tagline of the Miracle Morning is elevating the consciousness of humanity one morning at a time. And our mission is to elevate the consciousness of 1 billion individuals with personal self-responsibility. Be the change you wish to see in the world on a regular basis. Because if you look at David Hawkins' work, if you're familiar with his book, Power versus Force, and for anyone who's not familiar or not interested in doing the research, you can literally just Google Power versus Force chart, and it will blow your mind. And it shows there's states of consciousness and the frequency that you're emitting based on your emotional state. And so you can see that there are lower states of consciousness and higher states of consciousness. You cannot be in a shame storm and in an attitude of gratitude at the same time.
Right.
It's actually not possible. And so when you engage in the Miracle Morning, when you are visualizing, meditating, learning, journaling, when you are, dropping into that prayer or exercising, et cetera, what you're doing is you're pulling yourself out of the lower state of consciousness that you may have been sitting in before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important for us to recognize that our frequency and vibration shifts on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the practices that we can engage in individually that are going to not only raise our own consciousness and vibration, but raise it for those around us.
Yes.
And so, yes, it's possible. And we together are doing that. And everybody who's listening has the opportunity to do that as well. And it really starts with mindset, because if you're in a self-deprecating mindset, if you're in a shame storm, if you are believing that you are not good enough or you're trying to live up to someone else's version of who you should be, you're out of alignment. And what happens there is that you're not able to raise your consciousness if you keep yourself in this lower state. And so Miracle Morning is kind of like an easy way for us to level up on a regular basis.
I think people forget about the importance of being at a higher vibration. It's not yes, it's going to affect the world. If everybody does something like this, their vibration elevating it will elevate those around us, like you just said. But it also is like a magnet and pulls what you are looking to have in your life into you as an individual, right? Like there's a payoff for you too, to be making sure that you're doing your part to just sort of be vibrating at the highest possible level yourself.
Like attracts like. We found each other because both of us care deeply about mindset and supporting those who are on their journey and pulling them up from wherever they were because of the experiences that we've had or witnessed. And what's so beautiful is that you are definitely going to get a huge benefit by sticking with practices that are elevating your own consciousness. Not only are you going to learn more, you're going to feel more fulfilled. You're going to manifest the things that you want into your life, because when we are in this negative mindset, what we're doing on a subconscious level is we are affirming what we don't want into our life. And if you're familiar with The Secret or the power of, what is it? I'm forgetting. The Secret. It was like the power of the law of attraction.
Yes.
if you're familiar with the law of attraction, what we do on a regular basis is we affirm what we don't want into our lives. And when you check yourself and you recognize, oh, that conversation that I keep having over and over again, when I change the vocabulary, when I change the tone, when I change the intention, what happens is the thing that I wanted starts happening versus the thing that I was trying to propel away that somehow I was unconsciously bringing forth into my life. And that will show you what I call that is evidence tracking. So once something happens, yes, it's like track that, notice the good that's coming into your life, because when you recognize and notice and like for real take note of the good experiences, like I told myself in 2021 I wanted to meet a ton of powerful individuals who were individually serving the world at a high level, and here came Michelle. Like I was able to manifest my new friendship with Michelle, who's doing such extraordinary work in the world because of the vibration that I put out into the world, because of the intention that I set. And then when I met her, I took note and I said, "Thank you, universe, for affirming what I had asked for." And so that's something that we can all do in various ways, depending upon how woo-woo you want to get.
Yeah. What else? What else do you want to share with people? What other thoughts are in your mind right there that you just want people to know about?
I want people to ask themselves, who do you choose to be? And this is an affirmation that I use on a regular basis. It's in the coloring book, and it's, I am where I am because of who I was. But where I go depends entirely on who I choose to be. So ask yourself today, who are you choosing to be in this moment? Literally, because every single moment that we're consciously showing up, we get to make the choice about how we want to show up. The frequency we want to give off, the types of conversations we'd like to engage in, the types of people we'd like to associate with, the types of spaces we'd like to insert ourselves into. And that's a choice that we get to make when we're in the driver's seat of our own lives. So on a regular basis, I get knocked over and I ask myself, who do I choose to be right now? And the answers are different each and every time. You might stay down for a little bit of time and rest. But when you pick yourself up, how you pick yourself up, how quickly you bounce back is a reflection of who you choose to be in that moment. And the last thing that I will say is, oh my gosh, you're in for a treat. Kunal is like the most extraordinary character of all characters. So if you liked what you just heard, you guys gotta tune in to Michelle's next interview, because Kunal is on a regular basis elevating the consciousness of humanity. He is on a mission. He's the guy that puts on the TED at the UN. He put on this amazing event for women and girls in science with the UN, and he's doing huge things to support the consciousness of the planet on an individual and collective basis. And what's beautiful about that is we can either sit there and say, oh, that's just something he does, or that's just something Michelle does. Or we can individually take personal responsibility from wherever place we're sitting and ask ourselves, who do we choose to be based on what we know is possible?
Amen. Oh my goodness. Thank you. And thanks for that reminder. I feel so fortunate to have met you both. And I'm so honored to have gotten to talk to you and to get to talk to Kunal. I mean, it's going to be amazing to talk to him about this topic as well. Thank you so much. You know, you inspire me, Brianna. You've been through a lot, and yet you are, you're showing up for yourself and for everyone. And I just admire you. And I just thank you so much for joining me, for the opportunity to be part of your rooms, for the part, the energy that you create in your rooms. It's fulfilling for people who get to join like me and like hear what you're talking about in the space you've created. Is there anything else that you want to share that you're up to? How do people connect with you if they want to follow you, aside from join your Miracle Morning Room and Clubhouse? What else?
Well, first, I want to just say it's such an honor to share space with you. And also, I want to just let you guys know that this is not how I've always been. The first 21 years of my life, I was knocked down on a regular basis and I stayed there. And this was something, the last 13 years have really been a reflection of how much I've learned and then how much I've implemented of the things that I've learned. And so this is like an ever evolving journey. So if you're at the beginning of your journey and saying like, how the heck did she pick herself back up? Well, it takes a lot of practice and a lot of times getting knocked over. So just remember, every time you're knocked over, you just ask yourself, who do you choose to be right now? And how quickly do I want to pick myself back up? Knowing that I'm going to continue getting knocked over throughout life. And you guys can follow me on Clubhouse. It's Bree Greenspan. You can find the Miracle Morning Room. If you're interested in starting a 30-day challenge with the Miracle Morning, you can go to tmmbook.com and everything is totally free, but there's a ton of other bonuses and things within that. I have an Instagram. I'll pop it in the chat or something. It's Bree Green 1111. I'm not like out there in the open. I'm more like kind of behind the scenes, but now I do have this Clubhouse room, which I hope that you guys join and share your transformation stories about what's working in your life.
Thank you, Brianna. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to staying in touch with you and seeing you around the Clubhouse halls.
Absolutely. Have a blessed day, Michelle.
You too, my dear.